Well, Mark, first of all, thank you very much for coming today. We are super excited to have you. We have had great success with your signature Paul Reed Smith guitar. So we are excited to see the mysterious blue one behind me that we have yet to see in the store. So that's awesome. This is actually our first Paul Reed Smith event back since the beginning of 2020.
Awesome.
So really cool. Yeah, really cool to have it with you. So is there anything that you would like our listeners to know about that you have going on? That I know you're currently on tour, you have a signature guitar, you're a great educator, a great player. What else do you have going on?
What else have I got going on? Well, I guess the next thing that you can check out, I'll have a live record that's getting released at the end of August that features my quartet called the Lettieri Group that we recorded at the Iridium in New York City over 2 nights in March.
Okay.
And really proud of that one. It's a really cool kind of snapshot as to excuse me, what we do live and how we interpret our music. And really, really great room. We're really stoked to get to play there and capture it. So
that's awesome.
Coming out, yeah.
Okay. And you have quite a catalog of solo albums. 7?
Yeah, 7.
Okay.
Include the EP, yes.
That's a humongous catalog.
I guess so. Sometimes I feel like it's not big enough, but you know.
No, you have certainly a lot.
Yeah.
So tell me about the tour.
It's good. It's going great. I kind of just started my portion of it. So the tour I'm on is with this band, Snarky Puppy. The tour actually started at the end of March, I think. And I split it in half with our other guitar player, Bob Lanzetti. So we played in New York City together. He did the first 2 weeks of the tour, and then I'm doing the second 2 weeks. So this New York show was like our halfway point, and then he went home and I stayed on. So I'm finishing out the tour. We'll be done in about a week and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated how that works because you have so many members and you're constantly rotating. Yeah. Is that difficult?
Yes and no. Obviously, a lot of scheduling goes into it. And,
sure.
For the player who comes in halfway through, like myself, for example, the band is already 10 shows in. They've got a rapport going already, and maybe some arrangements have changed ever so slightly, and so I'm coming kind of cold. And of course, I know the material, but again, you kind of have to get your sea legs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but the stuff's been going great so far. I'm having a really good time, and but it's fun for the audience because then they get to see a different kind of amalgamation of the group every time that we tour. So actually, the formation that's out right now, the 9 of us or 10 of how many it is, 9 or 10 of us have actually never played together in that or like that formation.
Wow.
So to speak. I mean, we've all played together, obviously 1,000 gigs, but these specific 10 people, yeah.
Is that nerve-wracking?
No.
Like not at all?
No.
Wow.
Everyone knows what they're
doing. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I guess it keeps it exciting too,
yeah,
right?
It's great. Yeah, and the songs kind of sound different, go different places depending on who's taking them places.
Okay. So tell me how you got started.
Just in music in general? Yeah. Oh, okay. Pretty simple story. My dad had a guitar laying around the house, and I picked it up and started smashing around on it. I think I was probably 10 or 11. And he said, well, hey, you want guitar lessons or something? And I'm like, okay. And so I think he taught me a little bit, but then I just took lessons from a friend's mom. Okay. And then had a couple other teachers growing up, and started garage bands with my friends, and it was a pretty basic kind of suburban way of getting into music. Probably a lot of the folks that are walking around the store right now.
Similar story.
Same story.
Yeah.
So, and that was the '90s, late '90s. So it was cool to be in a band, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
It still is. I don't really know.
In here, it's definitely cool.
Good, great.
So, what made you take it to the next level and look at it as a career?
Well, I developed a passion for it very early on, in the sense that even when I was taking my first lessons, I was interested in learning songs, interested in writing songs, and playing in a band and all that sort of thing. But by the time I was about to finish college, was kind of when I started to quantify how I could have a career doing it, and the idea of like being a session player or a freelance player, someone who could play lots of different styles of music with lots of different types of artists, bands, was something that was appealing to me, and so that's what I started doing right out of school. I have a degree in journalism, so I don't have a degree in music.
Really?
But I wasn't totally interested in going into communications and media right off the bat.
Sure.
So I thought I would take a gander at becoming a professional guitar player, and I guess it worked.
Worked out pretty well, yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you have any standout teachers along the way?
I had a couple, yeah. A gentleman that I studied with in high school for a couple of years was fantastic. His name was Gordon Kahn, and he was real instrumental in teaching me proper technique and music theory.
Okay.
So I definitely got a good knowledge of that from studying with him. And, he was actually a student of Joe Satriani's back in the 80s.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was like a big hot guitar teacher in the Bay Area. So that was exciting for me because I was really into a lot of that kind of music. And
Sure.
we had that in common, and I had a great teacher in college for a bit named Tom Burchill, he was the jazz guitar instructor at the college, and I was able to take lessons with him like as just an extra elective credit. So it wasn't part of my degree, but some kids take French. I took jazz
Guitar
guitar.
lessons,
Yeah,
sure.
so it was great. And he was awesome. And then I've just had a load of mentors along the way, my peers, people my age who play, and who aren't even necessarily guitar players, who have been great teachers. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. A good teacher and a good music mentor make all the difference in the world. I mean, it keeps you inspired, it keeps you playing and focused. That's really cool. So how did you get into becoming an educator yourself?
People asked me to teach them things.
I can just say, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time where I did teach like a lot of private Skype lessons and things like that, and used to do kind of one-on-ones in person, but most of my educating now is like either master classes at universities or through online courses that I've developed.
Okay.
Which are pretty fun to do because I can kind of really dig into the things that I think develop my sound and how I express myself as a player and as a writer. And so I've done a couple different courses that people can get, and they're all videoed with tablature and whatnot. So that's kind of primarily my educational focus at this point, rather than like the one-on-one guitar teaching stuff.
Yeah, you can cover more and you can get it to a wider group.
Yeah, and it's just the way my career is. I mean, I'm primarily a performer and a recording artist. So, So to keep a roster of students is actually kind of impossible.
Yeah, the scheduling and the back end of it would be a lot of work. That's awesome. So who were some of your early influences when you first got started, and then who are some of your influences that you look to now?
Sure. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because as we were setting up, they were playing that song by Bush, Machine Head.
Yeah.
And I remember like wearing out that riff over and over again as a kid after being playing for 6 months or whatever it was. I mean, a lot of those kind of 90s grunge bands were real popular. I got into Jimi Hendrix a lot, Eric Clapton, Santana, a lot of the 60s, 70s kind of guitar heroes.
Okay.
And then as kind of my technique developed, it was more Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, Eric Johnson, Zach Wilde, a lot of those heroes from that decade. And then I started getting into kind of more jazz-oriented players like Larry Carlton.
Larry Carlton's fantastic.
George Benson for sure, Pat Martino, Charlie Hunter. I got into a lot of gospel guitar players like Spanky Alford, Jonathan DuBose. Guys who were doing a lot of R&B stuff like Ray Parker Jr., Paul Jackson Jr., David Williams. A lot of those guys are also session players. Steve Lukather, Michael Landau. But then, it's really funny. It's like a lot of my influences now are like my friends.
Okay.
The people that I play in bands with. So anyone that you see my name next to on a credit for a Snarky Puppy record or a Mark Lettieri record or a Felix Flowers record, for example, is a good influence.
Okay.
So.
Your whammy bar technique is awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Where
I stole that from Jeff Beck.
That's where it came from? Okay. It's like a Jeff Beck / Andy Timmons kind of like
probably
it's
a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely Jeff Beck was still is one of my all-time favorite
Okay.
players, But the other I had mentioned previously, John Rose, is a gospel player with a very specific kind of whammy technique, which I learned from. Yeah, I mean, Jeff's way of playing melodies and that kind of thing with the bar was just such a cool
Yeah.
thing. And I can't do that, so I had to kind of figure
Kind of come up with your own way.
Yeah, my own way of faking it.
Yours is, it sounds so full. I don't know how to really describe it for those who haven't heard, but his whammy bar technique is absolutely awesome. It's really cool. What do you do for practice?
Well, I don't have a practice routine in that.
Okay.
From this hour of the day to that hour, I'm going to work. I don't do that. I find if I do try to practice, I'll try to write something maybe, or come up with a groove, a progression, something like that. If I am like really working on technique, I'll do it in the context of whatever work I have to do. So I do a lot of my session work out of my home studio remotely. So if someone sends me a track, for example, and they say, the solo section is bars 72 to 100 or something like that, and it's this wacky set of changes, I know what I'm practicing that day. Right?
Yeah.
It's practice. As long as I turn in the guitar solo on time and it sounds good.
It doesn't matter how you're out there. Yeah. So you just loop that all day
And I
come up with
wasn't charging
something.
the guy by the hour, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
So I can practice it as long as I want and get some new ideas that way. Instead of, or I should say, in lieu of like having a dedicated practice time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a dedicated practice routine?
It was the afternoons, I guess.
Just running scales and
I'm pretty scatterbrained as it is in terms of concentrating on things. So even if I was focused on, today I'm just going to work on the Lydian mode, I would end up somewhere else
Doing
by the end of the
10,000
practice
other
routine
things, yeah.
anyway. So,
Okay.
But I've spent a ton of time learning songs and transcribing, parts and things like that. So it all kind of comes out in the wash, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say that because I struggle with similar things. I used to make like the Steve Vai lists, so if you had a day off, you'd make a list. You'd be like, okay, for 8 hours today, I'm going to practice this. Hour one, I'm going to do this. Hour two. I never got.
Yeah, I've never had a free 8 hours. Well, as a kid, I was involved in sports a lot, so.
I was all guitar all the time.
From 1 to 5, you're at the track doing practice, and so it's like I had to kind of get it in when I could get it in.
Well, tell me about your home studio.
Okay, it's upstairs. It's not the most high-tech thing, but it does what I need it to do. I have a Mac computer, I have Apogee interfaces.
Okay.
I use a couple different ways to record guitars. I have a few mics that I'll use for acoustics, assuming that there's no airplane flying overhead or something. But I use a Kemper amp a lot for direct recording. I use neural DSP plugins.
Okay.
And then sometimes I'll mic a cabinet. But most of the styles of stuff that I do, I wouldn't say call for the sound of a room necessarily. So in that respect, having a plug-in or a Kemper
It's perfect.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. So what operating software do you use?
I use
What-
Logic.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been a Logic user forever. Because I started on GarageBand. Well, I started on Pro Tools. And
It's too
then I
hard.
learned how to use it, and I was like, this is impossible. And when they came out with GarageBand, I'm like, this is easy.
Yeah, I can
Why
do
don't
this.
we just use this? Like, I didn't realize that it wasn't quote-unquote professional. But by the time I knew what professional was, they had created Logic, which
Yeah.
is considered professional.
Yeah.
So that's what I use. And it's great. I like using it.
Yeah, it's fairly easy in the terms of recording software. I feel like some you have to be an engineer
Yeah.
to understand.
Sure.
And I buy those books. It's like, Pro Tools for Dummies,
Yeah.
and you try to use them as a reference,
You're
but
like, "Oh, I'm
Logic is
still
always,
dumb."
Logic is always the easier way to go. What about your guitar collection?
Well, there's quite a few of them.
That's good.
I have them all. Well, I shouldn't have all of them. I have a fair amount of them displayed so that they can be accessed simply for recording use. But yeah, there's quite a few PRS guitars, obviously. gosh, there's like a couple Fenders, a couple Don Grosh, a couple very small, unique builders,
Okay.
several baritones, a couple basses, a few acoustics, a 12-string mandolin.
Oh, that's an interesting instrument.
Tenor ukulele, yeah. So you can never have too many guitars. Right?
That's right. Good.
There you go.
We're going to quote you on that.
That's right.
So tell me about the development of your signature model.
All right. Well, I had formed a relationship with PRS a few years prior to that. I was working, playing their 594, McCarty 594
Yeah.
models, which I did, and doing a little bit of work with their Suns era amps.
Yep.
And they actually approached me with the idea to do a signature model, basically because they knew I was, kind of like a bolt-on neck Strat style player primarily, and they wanted to expand that line of their product because they had had so much success with the Silver Sky.
Sure.
And so, right off the bat, it wasn't like, hey, we're going to make another Silver Sky, just put your name on it. It was like, you like bolt-on guitars, what do you want to do? And so that's pretty much how it started.
Okay.
I flew up there a few times and we chopped a bunch of wood and, made good ideas and made bad ideas. And it's really funny, I have a box, 2 boxes actually, in my house of different bodies and wood pieces that were sprayed different colors because we were trying to get
Really?
Yeah, like this one, the Amaryllis, I have a whole bunch of those at home. They're all different shades of red.
Really? Okay.
Some of them are like orange actually, which look pretty neat. We had a couple total failure color ideas that I thought would have been great, and then the way they came out, it was like,
No.
well, part of the hard thing is that it was coming up with an opaque color.
Okay.
That was sort of different, I guess you could say. And I had this idea. Part of the concept of this is that all the colors are named after and related to different species of flowers.
Okay.
So this is the Sugar Moon Rose. Amaryllis is I think it's also kind of a rose, and then Larkspur is a type of delphinium or something like that.
Okay.
I learned a little bit about botany getting into this process, but I had this one idea. We'll probably have to do it as a private stock, like flame burst thing, because it's called sharkskin agave, which is a type of cactus that goes from gray to green to purple.
That would be awesome.
And I tried to do it as an opaque, and it ended up just looking like dishwater. And so I have like a box of these just terrible looking dishwater gray kind of bodies, and Beverly was like, "Yeah, I don't think you're gonna like any of these.
Yeah, this isn't gonna work
anyway." So anyway, it was really fun coming up with the colors and tweaking pickups and cap values and all that kind of stuff. So,
What are some of the standout features that make it uniquely yours, or that make it super comfortable to you?
well, the neck shape is unique to me.
Okay.
We started with a pattern regular and then modified it to kind of fit where my hand was feeling it. It's a 10-inch radius all up and down, 25.5-inch scale, which is pretty unique for PRS. The bridge is a 2-post trim, which is very unique for PRS. I think the only other guitar that has that is the SE Silver Sky.
Okay.
SSH configuration, what's cool about the humbucker is that we actually don't do a coil tap. It's a series parallel.
Okay.
So you don't actually lose any output, really. It just kind of changes the tone
Okay.
character. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not in a noticeable
Not like a
fashion.
normal
Maybe
coil
more
tap
just
would be.
coil tap,
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have a pretty neat pickup selecting process where you can get combinations of all 3 or different, you can get neck and bridge if you want, or like neck with bridge run in series versus parallel. So I think there's like 11 something different actual
Wow,
tones
okay.
you can get. Yeah. Let's see, what else is unique about it? It's really good.
Yeah.
It's not unique, it's standard for PRS. Yeah, it's a different body shape, technically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great guitar.
Thanks,
I mean,
man.
it's really good, versatile guitar. The neck feels great. It still has the classic look to it, right? So for like a
Sure.
Fender player or a traditional Strat style player, it's
Yeah.
kind of like the next evolution. So
Yeah,
really
it's
cool.
not far off the base from familiar things, but it still looks like a PRS. And the thing that I've been really, really proud of is seeing how it's been embraced by guitar players of all genres.
Yeah.
There's an indie rock band in Canada that's playing it. The guitar player from Morris Day and the Time is playing one. The guitar player from Janet Jackson is playing one.
Wow.
The guy who's in Deep Purple now is playing one. So we've got metal, R&B, funk, indie rock. There's a gentleman playing one with a country artist. So it's all over the map, which I was like, great.
That's great,
That's exactly what I wanted to have.
Yeah. And that kind of fits your playing style too.
I think so.
You're
I
fairly
do a lot of things.
unique from your collection of
Yeah.
7 records.
There we go.
So you had mentioned earlier the Kemper. That style of product, I feel like, has really changed recording, live performance, everything really. What do you think about those kind of things as opposed to pedal boards and amp configurations and stuff?
I use a Kemper solely as an amp. I don't actually really use many of the onboard effects. I'll run a pedal board into the Kemper.
Okay.
But I think as far as flexibility, they really can't be beaten, especially in the studio.
Yeah.
For most projects. I mean, I've put a Kemper on almost, well, since I got one, they're on almost all of my records in some way, shape, or form. We did, actually, the last Snarky Puppy record, everyone was playing a Kemper almost.
Wow.
Even the keyboardists.
Wow.
Yeah. So all 3 guitar players, the violinist, and then I think 2 of the I think one of the two of the Rhodes went through a Kemper and a clavinet.
Okay.
That was actually a really fun process because our clavinetist, Bobby Sparks, loves loud, distorted amps, and so I had to go through and I found like some old Marshall Plex profile. That's what he used. Ended up sounding like a guitar.
Do you have a go-to amp preset that you use?
I have several actually.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of depending on the song.
Okay.
There's a guy in Nashville named Michael Britt who's the guitar player for the band Lone Star, big country band, and he has a side gig making profiles. And so
that's
he's
cool.
got a ton of really cool ones from all different kinds of amps. And so
Yeah.
it all just depends on the song.
There's so many good profiles out there that you can get. Like, I'm always chasing the different Van Halen tones.
Oh sure, yeah.
And those things, I mean, man, they come so close, especially the obscure ones. Like, I was like the 90s Van Halen tone.
Wow.
Like that full stereo
Yeah,
spread.
that's sold down. Kind of.
Yeah, and you can get it from that. It's
Yep.
amazing.
I have a few 5150s that are pretty good, but a lot of Mike's Fender profiles are very good. Divided by 13s, a couple different
Okay.
boutique,
Yeah, sure.
6L6 type sounds. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how, from your Kemper, you're going to your pedal board. What's on your pedal board?
Well.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot.
That's one of. I have 2 boards. This is kind of like the main touring board. If I don't have to fly with it every day.
Okay.
So it goes in that hard case and goes on the trailer. But then I have another board that's a little bit smaller that fits in a rolling laptop case that I can bring on a plane and put on my seat if I need to. But I guess long story short, I use a lot of J-Rocket Audio Design's Overdrive products. I have a chorus pedal out with Jackson Audio that I've been using a bunch. I use a lot of TC Electronic stuff for verbs and delays.
Sure.
What else is on there? MXR stuff for octaves and phase shift and things like that. This board has a Line 6 M5 on it still.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
What else is over there? This cool, funky Overdrive. It's kind of like a fuzz by this company called Westerland that's owned by a good buddy of mine that just came out like today or something. It's very new.
Okay.
I think maybe the name show was their release or something, but it's a neat pedal. It's like I would liken it to an Overdrive, almost like a fuzz.
Okay.
And some cool Walrus audio delays.
They always make good stuff.
There's a Keeley delay over there. It's a Walrus tremolo and a Pigtronics octave fuzz.
Wow. Okay.
Board, yeah.
So is your board constantly changing? Are you one of those kind of guys?
Yeah,
that's like,
kind of.
Always changing
the
up?
top row changes quite a bit. I mean, I usually keep the J-Rocket stuff just because I'd swear by their overdrives, man. I don't know, man. I can't do a gig without it.
Okay.
They're not paying me to say that. But yeah, I'm always swapping out other things like that, and everybody always is like, how come you don't get a MIDI switcher controller? And I was like, because I have to repatch everything every time I change my mind about it.
And you're changing stuff all the time.
Changing my mind all
Yeah.
the time, so I'd rather do a little bit of tap dancing and maybe make a mistake or two.
And it's fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
getting a new pedal's inspiring and
Yeah,
exciting.
you know,
And, yeah. It's cheaper than buying new guitars every
That's
week,
true.
right?
That's right.
Well, we have one question that we always ask everybody that is a guest. Tell me about the most epic gear fail that you had on stage.
Gosh.
We've heard some good ones.
Which one? Most epic gear fail. I'm trying to think. The one that stands out, and this might not even be the worst one, but the one that stands out in my mind is, this was several years ago on a Snarky Puppy tour. We were playing at this venue called shoot, the Hammersmith Apollo, maybe? It was a big place.
Oh, yeah, I've heard
3,000 people.
Okay.
And I think it was a sold out show, and I had some big guitar solo moment where maybe the drummer was playing, but it was primarily me.
Okay.
And the board just cut out. Well, I don't even know what it was to this day, it just stopped working. I don't know if like something came unplugged or a cable died or whatever, you know, and that was it. And I sort of just had to like raise my hands and be like, guys, I can't continue this, and laugh. And I think someone else took over the solo, and I probably just like got down on my knees and started punching the board or something until it came back in, you know. That's usually how I fix things. I just kick it till it starts working again. That wasn't that board. This was
Okay, all right.
many boards ago.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
if we're ready for the clinic later, if we
well,
start hitting with a hammer or
you
something
never
off the...
know. But that's, I mean, yeah, it's like patch. It doesn't, whatever, I don't care if your rig was made by NASA, a patch cable will still go down.
That's it.
It's just those things happen.
Yeah. Or a 9-volt comes unplugged,
Yep.
or, you know,
Or somebody trips over the.
your cable just
Yeah,
happens
it's like
to go
all-
bad. Like,
I have fried a power supply before with the wrong voltage. That was embarrassing. That was nerve wracking. We were doing a gig. This was my trio. We were playing a show in Italy, and this was maybe 10 minutes before we were supposed to go on. And I had plugged my pedal board into the power transformer converter thing, because, you know, they're on 220 over there, and
Sure.
110, yada yada. And for whatever reason, the transformer was running really hot. And I thought something was wrong. Everything was working. I was like, this is
That's really hot. Like, doesn't feel
something's
right.
probably wrong. So I flipped the switch on the back of it, which then made it wrong.
oh,
And the board goes, like, I made an audible sound, and then smoke came out of it, and I was like, oh, this is bad. And so I think I had one overdrive, one J-Rocket overdrive, and that was it for the gig. Into a Fender Twin with broken reverb.
oh,
It's a trio gig, and I rely on a fair amount of gain and delay and stuff like
Sure.
that for my gig. And there was a very famous jazz drummer in the audience. He didn't leave, but